Whatever comes. Wait, don't jump to conclusions so quickly. But most of us are very rushed because we live according to our habit of being hasty, rushing into love. Then rushing to break up. Rushing to say we care. Rushing to refuse. Seeing someone grieving. We quickly take out money to give them. Then later find out they tricked us. Oh my goodness. I was so mad I could die. Then that lady says, "Why didn't you say something sooner?" Actually, it's okay sometimes. Occasionally in life, we stumble like that once or twice. It gives us a chance to live more slowly. So, recently, I gave a talk in Toronto last week and mentioned one of the secrets to living peacefully and happily. All our failures or our past experiences are learning lessons, not inherently something that causes suffering. Or rather, I often tell young people these days that when they encounter something difficult, they feel they can't handle it and tend to experience stress, depression, and many negative thoughts. But we adults are different because we have lived through hardship and moved upwards. Our children now, most of them have lived comfortably from the start and are now facing challenges. We lived upwards from hardship, so we can glide through, accept, and overcome anything. But our children, from childhood to adulthood, have never known deprivation, never known hunger. Whatever they want, we give it to them. We even take them to the market. And if they want something, we buy it. Therefore, their lives are very comfortable. But precisely because of this comfort, they rarely experience shocks like people rejecting them or turning them down. So when they face something they feel they can't handle, they can't bear it. As for us, we've been through so much. Trying to escape the country as refugees. We got cheated. Working at the temple. We got cheated. Building a house. We got cheated. We've been cheated so many times. So, we have a lot of experience with suffering. Therefore, if someone bumps into me lightly tomorrow, leaving me scratched, scraped, or cut, is not a big deal. I can empathize. So, when I look at the environment my children live in now and compare it to my own environment back then, I can understand them. I don't blame them for being the way they are, because they are in a different environment than mine. Looking at it this way is called contemplation. It's meditation. So, practicing meditation is easy. Whatever happens in life, we can still apply it. We can still utilize our contemplative mindset. It's fine. That's why I often tells the kids in America, when you're driving on the freeway and take the wrong exit, it's okay. Just find another way to turn around. I often says, there is no single way, meaning we don't call it the end of the road. There's never a situation where we face a problem and must direct our mind elsewhere just to make our mind positive. I uses the term move on, right? We don't give up. Most young people tend to give up easily. So, I just guide them to redirect their minds. I gives an example at the temple. Whenever we eat pizza, the crust, the end of the bread, they often discard it because there's no filling. I then suggest mixing some soy sauce and chili sauce to dip it in, saying it tastes delicious, like Vietnamese bread, right? And if the bread is stale, and we're eating congee, we can break the bread into small pieces and put it in. I mentions that when he was young and poor, after eating instant noodles, he would save the leftover broth, add some cold rice, and eat it all up. They don't know those dishes. They don't know those extremely delicious delicacies. What I mean to say, I just wants to tell them. Teacher just wants to tell you kids. It's about how we live when we are in a certain situation. With a piece of dry bread, what should we do? Just like with that piece of bread. How do we deal with moments when we are hungry? For example, with dry bread. We can make steamed bread. Does anyone here eat steamed bread? That's why I says, it's not about coming to this country where we have surplus food and then throwing things away. We should still practice living simply. So if we fall into any situation, we know how to live. And what if, sometimes now, while traveling, we encounter an incident and have to resolve it? How should we handle it? I often talks to the young monks this way, and even at that moment, the way the situation unfolds, how I resolves it, and then jokes with the young monks, quoting them. For example, I presides over ceremonies for the deceased at the temple, with thousands of ancestor photos. But does he remember who is who and where they are? Not at all. Every time, the monks stand waiting for a long time. When I walk past and someone points, "Pop," I look at them and say, "I know you wonder why I remember." They ask, "How do you know?" I jokes, "It's because of the master." But I is just teasing the monks. When my mind isn't focused on other things, every day I just focus my mind on one task. I don't forget. I jokes further. They are all my members. When I officiated a ceremony for this person 20 years ago, and now it's their 20th death anniversary commemoration, I still know where they are, and their descendants confirm it. I know them all. Recently, when moving ancestral remains, trying to find the urn, I couldn't find it and said playfully, "Where is Grandma? It's been so long. Haven't visited. Forgotten the urn." So, dear assembly, I asks, "Is that right?" And then the assembly sees many venerable monks saying, "Well, I can practice meditation too." Sitting meditation is one form, but we need to know how to apply that contemplation, that investigative meditation. The word tam means to investigate, to research, to see the meditative state or Zen in daily life. Meditation exists in every aspect of life. We can be flexible with it. For example, sometimes when going up to conduct a ceremony, typically for a large service like that, I am the assistant officiant. I have to remember which head monks are officiating, prepare the microphone, and then start the ceremony with the incense offering. I have to prepare the incense. Sometimes, they stand up, and no one remembers what to do. I stands there quietly, not saying anything, waiting to see when they'll realize. It's not that I dislike them, but there must be those moments to remember. Sometimes, they hold the incense sticks, make vows, but forget to bring the microphone over. Even when the microphone is right in front of them, they seem lost in the heavens and earth. I just chance along, not paying attention to their laps. Sometimes, a garbage bag is left in front of the door. Ask, "What's this?" "Oh, just a garbage bag." Is that all? So, you are half meditating. You see the garbage bag. But meditation should tell you what needs to be done with this garbage bag. That's why I talks to the American friends, the young American kids. The mindfulness of insight meditation is like this. The eyes see, the ears hear, the heart works. This needs to work with the heart. The ears need to work with listening, hearing someone cry out in pain. But if our heart doesn't react, doesn't say, "I should run over and see what's wrong." Sometimes, I know my wife is sick in the room. I know it, but this heart doesn't stir. Go in and see. "Do you need anything, dear?" You see. So, just needing that gentleness is enough. Therefore, in our lives, if we have contemplation and meditation, if we live meditatively, life naturally becomes fresh and vibrant, and many people around us will be happy. One morning, I visited a family and saw the children were a bit mischievous, a bit difficult, a bit stubborn. I chanted a short sutra, then sat down with one child in the house, held their hand, and said, "Earlier, when teacher walked in, I noticed you have many positive qualities inside you, but you need someone to guide you to cultivate and develop them. Actually, I'm no fortune teller or physiognomist, but saying something like that, how could the child not sit and listen? Seize the opportunity. Even if a word I say can reach them for 5 or 10 minutes. I don't refuse to help. Their parents have trouble with small things, but disciplining the child is harder. Asking them to come down and sit there, kneeling, is not easy. So, if I chant a long sutra this one time, they will never be receptive again. Therefore, if you want them to be receptive, you have to be receptive to the Buddha first. Praying, "Buddha, let me chant briefly. I have work to do." Understand the point. Regarding investigative meditation, if I am the one conducting the ceremony, it's not about chanting from 1 to 10 to be considered complete chanting. I must contemplate the situation. Are the people sitting here able to kneel for this long? Or do I need to talk to them? Sometimes, at a wedding, most weddings I officiate involve very little chanting. I uses the time to explain the meaning of patience, the meaning of why we have this harmonious union ceremony, how important it is. That's the key point. Whereas, if I chant for a really long time, then call it a ceremony, the attendees will be bored too, let alone the couple involved. What's important is the teaching. Giving teachings should also be moderate. If I see them getting drowsy, I know they want to enter deep meditation. So, right while I'm teaching, I also have to practice meditation to look down and see if people are listening to me or if they are down below with eyes closed. Nodding off. Praising. Teacher is teaching so well. Before they even know what I mean, I nod my head. I praise them completely. So, you see, what does Buddhism teach us to practice? It teaches meditation. But the word meditation or Zen that I wants to talk about is not about distinguishing between different meditation schools or Pure Land practices. What I wants to convey is how we can apply mindfulness in every moment, in every action of our lives, because that is the main purpose of Buddhism. Chanting sutras is not outside the scope of bringing our mind back to mindfulness. Doing anything within the methods of Buddhism is solely for the purpose of bringing the mind back. Earlier, did you all see I hold the flower and sprinkle water? Do you know what that ceremony is called? In Buddhism, that ceremony is called sprinkling purification. Sai means to sprinkle. Tin means clean. It's an expression of a mental conception. For example, when a Buddha statue is made, during the process, dust might settle on it. Insects might even climb on the Buddha as it's being carved and chiseled. Meanwhile, we might be kneeling on the ground below, prostrating devotedly, but during the actual creation, can't be like that. The artisan necessarily has to use scaffolding or a ladder, climb up level with the Buddha, maybe even climb onto the Buddha's neck like this, sit there and carve to make it beautiful, right? So, we have the mindset that the statue is not yet consecrated through any ceremony, so we shouldn't fully prostrate yet. Therefore, we use the meaning of the ceremony, taking a bowl of water and a flower to perform the sprinkling purification ritual, sprinkling the water on it. But actually, before sprinkling, one must wipe underneath. Take a cloth and wipe it. Then the ceremony is performed up top. Don't just sprinkle water on a dusty statue for a whole month. The dust won't come off. Wipe it first. It's like a bride who has her makeup done perfectly. She just needs to come out for the groom to lift the veil. And it's official. Before that, her hair was styled, makeup applied, everything done properly. So, the meaning of sprinkling purification is bringing our mind to this statue, invoking blessings into it. Then people naturally feel the sacredness in the statue. People often use the term opening the light, dotting the eyes for the Buddha. It should be the Buddha opening our eyes, not us having the ability to open the Buddha's eyes. So, using the term opening the light, dotting the eyes isn't quite standard. The Buddha performs opening the light, dotting the eyes for us. Peaceful installation means we find the best, most dignified place in the house to respectfully invite the Buddha statue and install it in that location. That's called the ceremony of peaceful installation of the Buddha. But that moment of installing the Buddha statue is also the moment we enthrone the Buddha in our heart. We should say, the Buddha is within the mind. So, when the Buddha is within our mind, and we install the Buddha in our heart, but there's no external form to let us know the Buddha is installed. We make a small Buddha image to wear. Thus, the Buddha we wear around our neck isn't for the Buddha to protect us, but to remind ourselves that the Buddha is enshrined in our body and mind. The Buddha is in our body and mind, symbolized by wearing this Buddha image. Many people say you shouldn't wear it like that. Going into the restroom is defiling the Buddha, causing demerit. How to remove the demerit? They open their mouth and put the pendant inside. Oh goodness! If the Buddha could cry out, the Buddha would say, "Heavens! It smells bad enough in this room. I can still breathe. Are you afraid I'll smell the outside air? You put me inside where there are many people." Putting it in the mouth for the Buddha. And many people take off the Buddha pendant, afraid of the smell. Take it off and stuff it in their pocket. Do you see? Or we leave it outside somewhere. Then later, in a rush, forget to put it back on. Then they say, the Buddha isn't efficacious. I wore the Buddha, but the Buddha didn't protect me at all. Therefore, wearing it is a symbol. Yes, the Buddha is in the mind. But for us humans, we can't just talk about reason without mentioning form. Can't just talk about nature without mentioning characteristics. So, we need the characteristic, which is wearing the Buddha symbol here. Wearing it here isn't enough, right? We hang a Buddha in the car too. Hang a Buddha in the car again, with the meaning of driving carefully. Listen, child, every time you speed, drive fast. The Buddha shakes violently too, right? When you see the Buddha shaking, you know you're overspeeding. Oh dear. So the Buddha also suffers because of us. It's not just about hanging it there. And then, we think we won't have car accidents. Someone might hit the car hard. And we look over. Wow, the Buddha hanging there is tough too. It's not about hanging it for the Buddha's protection, but hanging it as a reminder that we must drive carefully, that we always have the Buddha with us. The Buddha means awakening, enlightenment. I says it like that. When someone wants to hang a Buddha in their car, I explain it to them. Whoever wants to hang a Buddha here, I will explain it. Whoever wants to respectfully invite a Buddha for installation, I explain the meaning of the installation ceremony so they listen and understand. Opening the eyes, not just opening the physical eyes. So, it's opening the eyes for the person involved. You invite me. You invite the teacher to come. Teacher performs the eye-opening for you. The one who venerates the Buddha. You must understand the meaning. How to wear the Buddha around your neck. How to hang the Buddha in the car. It's not about hanging it there for the Buddha to protect you. Buddha protects you means the Buddha reminds you. When you see the Buddha shaking, You know you're driving too fast. So, the Buddha has to dance hard to let you know. But if you're still not careful, you'll crash. So don't blame the Buddha. Earlier, the Buddha shook so much. The Buddha told you to slow down. But you see, Buddhism speaks of nature and characteristics, reason and phenomena, wisdom and blessings. It speaks sufficiently so that things can be complete and perfect. For example, yesterday I used an analogy. Our lives always have two aspects, reason and phenomena. If we say chopsticks are for picking up food, why not make them perfectly cylindrical? Why have a smaller end and a larger end? To define the small end for picking up food and the large end for holding, so they face the same direction and don't get mixed up. If they were completely uniform, we could eat with either end. But when defined like this, no one eats differently. Life is also like that. If we say all people are equal, that we are equal, then why must we address that person as uncle? Refer to ourselves as child/nephew. Call another person younger uncle, older brother, older sister. It's to establish respect and hierarchy. But the inherent nature is the same. However, if we just say nature is the same and disregard the external forms, society would descend into chaos. Therefore, thoroughly understanding this principle is investigative meditation. Meditation means stopping. First, the stopping. It's practicing cessation before doing deep contemplation, before speaking. So, in anything we do, if there's stopping and careful observation, we will avoid many mistakes. Sitting in meditation each evening helps the mind become calm. Once the mind is calm, it has the capacity to live according to the principles of investigative meditation in daily life. Sometimes, do you remember the Ksitigarbha Sutra? When someone wanted to speak to Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha, they looked back, and Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha said, "I don't know." Do you remember that line in the Ksitigarbha Sutra? Looking back means turning around to look. When Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha speaks, in our lives too, it's the same. Whatever we say, whatever we do, we must look ahead and look behind. We need to know who that person is so we speak appropriately, with order and respect. Then, when saying something like, "Today," relying on the majestic power of the Buddhas, relying on the majestic power of the Bodhisattvas, I have come to this point to speak on this matter. Why do the Bodhisattvas all say they rely on each other's majestic power? To remind us of a principle of living. No matter how talented we are, we still need the support, the assistance, the protection of others. Never say, "I came here and did this work all by myself." For example, today, the organizing committee prepared this meal, invited all of you venerable monks and assembly members. After the meal, we performed the ceremony. If there wasn't everyone lending a hand, how could it be done? That's why, from this afternoon until now, it's the majestic power of each person. Later, when it's over, everyone will put away their chair, store it, and the hosts will be relieved. Then you see the majestic power of each person. Therefore, the scriptures mention these ideas, these images, as ways for us to realize the principles by which we should live. So, regarding the question about meditation, I wanted to elaborate so the assembly can understand the way we practice in Buddhism, how we can achieve sufficient calmness to observe and contemplate every matter, every event in our lives, daily life, whatever comes. We can gently accept and transform it. Look deeply into it, know what it is, then transform it, guide it towards a better direction. I gives an example. If we make something and it breaks, we don't need to throw it away. we can turn it into something else. We transform it. For instance, in Vietnam, those broken temple bells that accidentally broke, or those alms bowls that break, the venerable monks don't throw them away. They take wire or clamps, bind them together. The person who made it can create a flower pot stand. Sometimes, people see it and find it beautiful, making it an incense burner to hold incense sticks. Once, there was a statue that broke exactly like that, broken at the base. Instead of not knowing what to do, putting it away in a cupboard, or throwing it out, this lady went to the market and bought a tall, white vase. She bought some colorful marbles, the kind used for flower arranging, and put them in. She placed the broken statue base in the middle, filled it with marbles, then added a few artificial flowers. It became a beautiful pedestal for the standing Guan Yin statue. You don't need to throw it away. In our lives, when we have enough calmness and insight, enough mindfulness meditation, we see that anything can be transformed, converted. Many elderly ladies often come and say, "Oh teacher, lately my hearing is bad. I'm quite deaf." I replies, "Because of that, you live without troubles. No one says anything that bothers you. You don't overhear anything anymore. So, anything we have, we can still see it as something we can endure. If we don't see it, we don't worry about it. See, there's an 86-year-old woman here. Every day, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon, she recites Amitabha Buddha's name 30,000 times. She recently told I'm 86 years old now. I don't want to praise myself. I don't want to get involved in troublesome matters or scolding my children. Whatever my grown children want to do, let them do it. Unless they do something evil, then I will speak up and advise them. But as for trivial matters in the house, like wanting to replace the tiles, lay new carpet, repaint the house, those things are fine. They have money. They want to fix the house. They live there. Let them do what they want. What fault is there? Only when they do something wrong will I speak up. Otherwise, I don't bother myself." She also said, "Worshipping Buddha should be simple. Because," she said, "if I were to acquire Buddha statues that are truly magnificent and beautiful, really beautiful, costing so much money, I'd be afraid that when I die, I'd cling to them and not be able to leave. Keeping it simple." I responds to the assembly, "This lady's point," I says, "This respected elder, although advanced in age, practices like this. Occasionally, she says things that are like revealing instructions for us. Kai means to open. Ti means to show or point out. Opening that up, showing it to the person. So, in life, many children say things, but their words offer revealing instructions to us. They say things that reveal truth. This elder lady is hard of hearing, but she says, "Now I feel healthy. I see whatever anyone says. I just smile along. I don't need to know what they're saying." She lives very naturally, very peacefully, because she's hard of hearing. She doesn't hear anything. And if she doesn't hear, she doesn't get angry. So sometimes, not seeing, not hearing. Do you see that set of figurines? The set often sold at markets, covering mouth, covering ears, covering eyes. Then there's another one, sitting with its head bowed, legs crossed, resting on its knees. Sometimes that's called empty mind. Not being anything, not seeing, not hearing, not speaking, not seeing, not hearing, not speaking. But for us, not seeing, not hearing, Not speaking doesn't mean being indifferent. Rather, it means not saying what doesn't need to be said, not seeing what isn't necessary to see, and not hearing what isn't necessary to hear. Because the time has come when we also need to let go. Therefore, each period of life is a level of mindfulness meditation. When young, one must strive, must work. While striving and working, there's also the investigative meditation appropriate for that stage. A middle age, when we start getting a bit older, then naturally our mindfulness meditation deepens a bit, and we can perhaps handle things more lightly. When we are old, our letting go is even greater because we see that now. Even if we want to hold on, we can't. Even if we try, we can't. Saying one more thing, strength failing the will. When strength fails the will, what is there to grasp or hold on to? Therefore, our mindfulness meditation deepens daily with age because now we see life, understand life, and letting go becomes easier, thanks to our seeing and understanding. This is called contemplative investigation. So, regarding that question, I spoke a bit extensively to give the assembly more details on how to apply contemplative investigation in our lives. Amit Ba Buddha. Alright. Does anyone else have a question? Yes. Child. Come down. Child asks, why do monks wear yellow, orange, brown, and gray robes? What's the meaning of each color? I responds, but when you ask that, what is your intention? Do you want to wear robes like the monks? Everyone understands the child's question, right? Asking why the monks wear blue, brown, orange/saffron. Does each color have a meaning? And asking like that means they have an intention, right? They intend to wear them. Do you all have the same question? No question. Why do monks wear brown, blue, yellow? Because there are no other colors. Dear Assembly, in Buddhism, we are always reminded that success in worldly or spiritual endeavors, nothing is more valuable than our patience. The blue robe is also the color of earth, but young earth. The brown robe is also earth, but mature earth. Usually, young earth is grayish, mature earth is brown. The yellow/saffron robe also represents the color of earth. So, generally speaking, blue, brown, or yellow all symbolize the color of the earth. Because earth symbolizes firmness, depth, thickness, and acceptance. Pour clean water onto the earth. The earth accepts. Pour dirty water onto the earth. The earth accepts. We practitioners should be the same. People praise us. Fine. People criticize us. Fine. Because, you see, nothing can be built without relying on the earth. Anything you want to build needs a foundation, which is earth. If you want to plant crops, you must plant from the earth below. So, this earth symbolizes what? Our mind. If our mind is deep, thick, and firm, then praise and blame, honor and disgrace are ordinary matters. Lay Buddhists wearing blue robes symbolize that their patience is still young. When one reaches the patience level of brown, it means the earth of their mind, their capacity for patience, is deep and strong. There's another meaning. The blue robe symbolizes the color of smoke. So, when we wear the blue robe, it reminds us that our thoughts should be light and free like smoke from incense. Conversely, if we let our mind become heavy and stagnant like ashes, it will fall down. Look at incense smoke. Ashes are also blue-gray. But if they are heavy, they fall down. If they are light, they rise up. Smoke rises, ashes fall. So it reminds us, if we let our mind be free and light, we are like rising incense smoke. If we cling heavily to everything, We are like incense ashes falling down. As for the brown or yellow robes, they both symbolize earth. Earth is the foundation of all things, all construction, all planting. Therefore, anyone whose mind is not good, that person, seemingly okay, but their mental foundation is not good. That lady has a very good mental foundation, because the mind symbolizes the earth. It's called the mind ground. Notice, what don't we store in our mind? Good, bad, beautiful, ugly, skillful, clumsy. Our mind contains so many things, so many seeds, so many latent potentials. If we are skillful, we water the good seeds. If we are unskillful, we water the unskillful seeds. So, you see, every time we plant something, we have to find good soil. If we know a spot isn't good, we have to amend it, make the soil better, then water and nurture it for the seed to sprout. Our mind is the same. Wherever it is barren and we want to cultivate it, build upon it, the very first step is to clear away the wild grass, the roots, clean it up thoroughly. Only then can we plant and build. Similarly, our mind still has much barrenness, doubt. So, if we clear that away completely, then countless wholesome seeds will sprout. Therefore, the practice of Buddhists is nothing other than cultivating the mind. And cultivating the mind, according to Buddhism, means understanding our mind, knowing our mind. We need to adjust it daily, not just passively recite mantras. As people often say, I don't go to the temple, I'm not vegetarian, I just cultivate my mind. Saying it simply like that. But if you ask what the mind is, they don't know. Truly, Buddhism is the path of cultivating the mind because it helps people. Because, you see, wholesome actions also originate from the mind, and unwholesome actions also originate from the mind. If a person's mind is evil, they do evil deeds. If a person's mind is good, they do good deeds. All religions want to train people's minds to be good and wholesome. Cultivating the mind is a process, not just a simple statement like, I don't need to be vegetarian or chant, I just cultivate my mind. But wanting to cultivate the mind requires very high cultivation, not no cultivation at all. And before cultivating the mind, one must understand one's own mind, know what state it is in, so one can cultivate it. If you don't understand the mind, how can you cultivate it? If you don't know what's wrong with your car, how can you fix it? If you don't know what's leaking in your house, how can you repair it? To know how to fix it, first, you must know what's broken. Cultivating the mind, correcting the mind, is the same. You must know your mind as it is. Then you can adjust it. Therefore, every day, we must contemplate the mind. Look back at our mind to know its current state. I gives an example. My mind still has jealousy. Even though I hear about a friend's success, I feel a twinge of jealousy. I don't need to tell anyone. I just contemplate within myself. When I heard about my friend achieving that, what was my mind like in that moment? I still felt a little jealous. I see someone else receiving attention, being treated this way or that, and I feel a bit jealous. I just know it. I know it so I can adjust myself. So, you see, the way of sitting meditation whenever one sits in meditation, one's eyes should look downwards like this. No one sits in meditation with their eyes wide open looking up. Sitting meditation requires looking, because when we return to ourselves, we look back at ourselves. That is meditation. Therefore, sitting meditation means sitting peacefully, looking back. My eyes looking down symbolize returning to my own mind. The Bodhisattvas, the Buddhas, always sit in meditation looking down. But conversely, the guardian deities, those deities we worship in the temple, their eyes are wide open, staring fiercely, because before you enter the temple door, and before you enter that door, those eyes help you subdue yourself first. Initially, we tend to look up at the sky, down at the earth, right? Passing by and seeing that figure. Ugh. Quietly. No, the reaction is fine. It's quite effective. Very. For us humans, when we step forward, before we enter, usually we tend to look up like that. But as soon as we turn and see one of those figures with bulging eyes staring, we get scared and naturally bow our head and walk in meekly. It's fine. Once you pass through this gate, you see Maitreya Buddha sitting smiling outside. You see Guan Yin Bodhisattva of compassion standing before the door. That's the layout of a Chinese temple. The four directions have the four heavenly kings east, west, south, north, and the four heavenly kings. Their eyes and noses look very fierce. Then in the middle is Maitreya Buddha, and behind is the Dharma protector. That's the style of worship in Chinese temples. Before entering the main hall, one must pass through the hall of the heavenly kings first, which is the heavenly king hall. Maitreya Buddha sits in the middle, with the Dharma protector statue behind. The four corners have the four heavenly kings. For heavenly kings, for directions, staring eyes, subduing the mind. Listen with joy, listen to them, but subdue the mind. Then you attain joy. Then the Dharma protector can protect you. If you are not joyful, even if you are skilled, you leave quickly. The Dharma protector stands behind. In Vietnamese temples, when you enter, there might also be heavenly kings, but usually, the temple courtyard has Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Guan Yin stands forming a mudra. This mudra is called the auspicious mudra. In her hand, she holds a vase of water. To this mudra, a willow branch is added, or sometimes the willow branch is placed in the vase. You enter the temple. You practice, you do merit work, you cultivate. Remember, first, cultivate a mind of loving kindness, symbolized by Guan Yin. Second, you must be patient, symbolized by the vase of pure water. Third, you must be flexible. Don't be rigid. You must be flexible. Be gentle, like the willow branch of Guan Yin. If you have these three elements, patience, flexibility, you enter the temple. You work yourself to death. You work constantly. It's fine. But if you are rigid, inflexible, lacking compassion, arriving on the third day of the month, End of translation for page 7 Start of translation for page 8 And on the 8th, you pack your bag and leave. You get persuaded heavily. Pack your bag back in. Then by the 10th, you leave again. Have I answered your question yet? Someone must have prompted them to ask. Yes. Please. Venerable monk. Questioner, thank you. And respected assembly. Listening to the teacher's talk today is very beneficial. I have a question I'd like the teacher to explain, involving two words that relate to human life. Dear assembly, those are the two words happiness. So, respected teacher, with your deep understanding and wisdom, as a true practitioner, could you explain further for the assembly, and for myself, to understand these two words, happiness, as they relate to our daily lives? Thank you, teacher, and thank you, everyone. I thank you. The Buddha said, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. Truly, happiness is what we already have. So, if we sit down and try to define happiness, there's no end to it. For example, someone pursuing fame and career will define their happiness as success in their profession. A warm family, obedient children, having loyal and good employees. That's it. For example, if a monk defines happiness, he can't say it that way. He might say, "My happiness is not a big temple, not lots of disciples, but my happiness is living every day in the Dharma of the Blessed One." So, happiness is boundless, limitless, because the important thing is to have mindfulness to recognize happiness. Long ago, Patriarch Bodhidharma, before he became a monk, was a prince. One day, Patriarch Prajnatara visited the palace to see the royal family and asked for the 3 princes to come out so Prajnatara could meet them. Among them was Bodhidharma before ordination. Prajnatara asked, "What is the most precious thing in this world?" The first prince answered, "Royal status, the position of king, is the most precious." The second prince said, "The diamond jewel is the most precious." Then the third prince, who was Patriarch Bodhidharma, replied, "In this world, wisdom is the most precious, because without wisdom, how can one recognize that this is kingship? This is a jewel. Thus, these precious things are right in front of us. But without wisdom, we cannot recognize them. In this world, we have phones, but if we don't know how valuable turning them off is, we won't realize its value. So, I respond to you, sir, and to the esteemed assembly, we need to remember that happiness is actually pervasive in life. The important thing is, for example, this very moment we are sitting here, this is happiness. We don't need to say anything else. What is happiness? Going to the airport and having someone pick me up is happiness. Having a place to stay is happiness. Having food to eat is happiness. When it's time to give a talk, having someone drive me is happiness. For example, so, happiness is myriad, endless. We just need mindfulness to recognize it. Earlier, while eating, that lady said, "My arm hurts. I'm tired. I'm going in to rest." Just as I saw her about to leave, I came over here, and I saw her come back out and sit down again. In my mind, I thought, I'm so happy. She was planning to rest, but hearing me come out to talk, she made the effort to come back out and sit here again. I am young. I can sit here, so I say I am happy. But truly, the greater happiness is someone twice my age willing to sit here with me. That is happiness. And now, before I talk about happiness and sing the happiness song for everyone, you will see what happiness is in the life of a practitioner. Breathing evenly follows sacred steps. Lips sealed. A smile always blooms. Child, we are still alive. Stepping evenly means still having both feet. Still seeing the path to gaze at nature. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, Father, in this world. So, do you see happiness? Not having. There is no road that leads to happiness. Happiness is the road. Meaning, what matters is the moment we recognize it. For example, you elders, 80 years old, yet still able to eat a bowl of rice each day. Walk well. Remain mentally sharp for you elders at this time. That is the greatest happiness. Money, possessions, nothing compares to health. So, for an elderly person at this stage, having this much is happiness. For young people working, having a career is happiness. But for someone going through a family breakdown, they say, I wish my family was warm. That is the greatest happiness. Isn't that right? So, happiness is multifaceted. pervading life, and depending on our perspective at any given moment. We recognize happiness. The Buddha also said, knowing contentment is happiness. A person who doesn't know contentment, whether in love or material possessions, still suffers as usual. That's why in the sutras, there's the saying, one who knows contentment, though lying on the ground, is still joyful and happy. One who does not know contentment, though dwelling in heaven, is still not satisfied. The person who knows contentment, lying on the earth, still feels joy. The person who doesn't know contentment, even in heaven, is still not happy. Do you understand that point? So you see, everyone defines happiness differently. Yes, the English is, a contented person, though sleeping on the ground, is joyful and happy. An uncontented person, though dwelling in heaven, is still not satisfied. So, in our lives, sometimes we look at each person to recognize what brings them joy or sorrow. Seeing that in them, we extend our mind, at least a little, to offer blessings or support to that person. Usually, if we want to know how someone is doing, what do we look at to know? Mostly the face, right? The face. In Vietnamese, what is the face called? Mirror face. Quang is a mirror. It reflects. It mirrors people's joy, sorrow, love, hate, anger, resentment. It all shows up on the mirror face. We look at that face to see, and at the same time, we look at ourselves to reflect ourselves. So, that person is also a mirror face. The Vietnamese use mirror face, while English just has face. Mandarin is mien, but Vietnamese specifically uses two words, mirror face. Look at their countenance. Look at the appearance of their face to know if they are happy, sad, suffering, so we can approach them and offer support. If, at any time, within our mind, there is even a small intention to offer support, know that this is a spark of wholesomeness arising. For example, usually, when we see someone sitting with the teacher, talking, and that person starts crying softly, we automatically go get tissues and offer them, right? Wherever we go, if we see someone sitting and crying, and we don't have tissues, we go back and get tissues to give them. That action is the action of offering support. Someone is crying. They don't have tissues to wipe their tears. Sometimes, someone is eating, struggling with something. We see it. We stand up, pour a glass of water, and offer it to them. That poor bowl. The old monk, Thay Dong Dang, leaning on his cane in the main hall, trembling as he walked up the stairs. I thought, how can I walk faster? I went over to help him hold the bowl. How pitiful. Thay Dong Dang. These past 2 days, whenever I came, every time Hoa went up the stairs, he saw him running over to help. I felt so embarrassed I could die. This morning I said, "Oh goodness. Sir, what are you doing? It's embarrassing. The old man has become like a young man. But you know, once, I went to Huangshan in China, alone. 5 people had to help me, and that was 10 years ago. I couldn't handle high altitudes. During the time in Bhutan, before going to Bhutan, I had to take medicine for a week. Preparing to go to high altitude, I took it for a week, but it had no effect whatsoever. When I got there, every day my head and ears felt numb the entire time. Then, when I returned via India, after a few days, it went back to normal. I couldn't climb those high places. Perhaps Thay Dong Dang understood this, and he knew that he has the physical appearance of a Dharma protector. It's funny, but when I climbed normally, suddenly I saw the teacher coming. He took my hand. He helped me up, like a senior monk about to ascend to nirvana and needing assistance. So now, everyone, just pay attention. Whenever we see in our heart, in our mind, we see someone who has something, and we naturally think of wanting to support them, help them, then we know that a light of wholesomeness has appeared in our mind. We have the heart of offering support. Add to that, if we look at a friend, instead of feeling flattery or envy, we naturally approach them, even if we do nothing, but avoid flattery. Understand the meaning. It means that often, our mind, instead of radiating luminous qualities, in life, is constantly filled with dark aspects. And it's precisely this darkness that keeps us living in ignorance. Therefore, the Buddha taught that the root cause, the origin of the suffering of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, is none other than ignorance. When people take something very normal and think it's distorted, while it's actually a simple matter. For example, instead of thinking, "Oh great, I was about to get tissues for her to wipe her tears, for him to wipe his tears, but I wasn't quick enough, and someone else already got them." Or even, "My legs are weak. I couldn't get the glass of water in time, but someone younger, healthier, got the water for that person." That other person manifested a light of luminous support. Here, I manifest an aspect of luminous what? Rejoicing. Yesterday we learned, seeing the joy of others. We rejoice. This means we know that in our mind. Wholesomeness means no jealousy, no saying harsh words. The second aspect of support is having no intention to harm. For example, seeing something and then saying words that might cause harm. The third aspect is maintaining the precepts with purity, not lacking. The word used in the Vinaya, the monastic rules, is often deficient. It means we still have some aspect that isn't quite perfect in that regard. So, regarding those pure precepts, we try to practice them without deficiency. The fourth aspect is what? A mind of constant impartiality or equality. I often uses the example of impartiality. Sometimes we think being impartial means treating everyone exactly the same. But in the context of our lives, if we have discerning wisdom, sometimes we see actions that are not uniform, yet the underlying mind is impartial. The reason actions are not uniform is because the mind has contemplated the situation. As I illustrates, example, suppose I have two children. One is clever and self-reliant. The other needs my attention for everything. So, these two children are both my children. Fundamentally, my love for them is the same, right? But the way I have to care for them and look after them is different. Isn't it? Different. The child who is clever and self-reliant doesn't need me to worry much. But the child for whom I have to be concerned about everything. Therefore, I often likens the love of parents, of a teacher, to the seabed. It's flat and level, but on the surface of the sea, it rises and falls with each gust of wind. Similarly, we will respond according to the circumstances of each person, being present for them. The child who is lacking, naturally, parents must pour more into them because they are lacking. Even among many children in a poor family that struggles financially, versus another child who has few siblings but whose family is well off. Then I have to be lighter on that side, the well-off one. Sometimes, I even have to ask from that side, the well-off, to pour into this side, the needy. But ultimately, all of that is just out of love. It might seem unequal, but in reality, it's not inequality. It's knowing how to act according to the specific circumstances of each person. giving out food with an impartial mind. Yes. But when an elderly lady comes, I give her less. Heavens. Giving an old lady the same amount as a young person. Giving her that much. What's the point? This is impartiality. Yes. But I haven't understood impartiality if I don't consider the recipient. An elderly person doesn't eat that much. And even with elderly people, if I need help with something, I still have to ask them, but I must choose tasks according to their strength. If I get an old lady, I might ask her to carry a small bundle of bricks, while a younger person carries vegetables. Understand the meaning. It's very impartial. Distributing food is impartial, but I tailor it to the recipient. A small child is too young. They don't eat much, so give them less. And I even have to choose foods they can eat. Usually, at a retreat, the food for children will be different from the food for adults. Adult retreat food might just be some boiled vegetables, some fermented tofu sauce, and that's happiness. But if you give that kind of retreat food to a child, after just one day, they'll be calling, "Mom, pick me up." You have to cook various dishes that young people like. So, the actions are different, but it's impartial. Not impartial doesn't mean. So the word impartiality always treats everyone exactly the same. But within that equal treatment, there must be wisdom, there must be mindfulness, and there shouldn't be the unwholesome mental states of stinginess, jealousy, greed, or deceit. These are the 4 unwholesome mental states. What is stinginess? The word sang means stingy, miserly, stingy greed. Stinginess is being miserly, but how is it defined? For example, greed is wanting to accumulate everything. Stinginess is even worse than greed. It's wanting to use only others' things and not wanting to use one's own. That's called stinginess. For example, the sutras mention 5 types of stinginess. Stinginess regarding dwelling place. Sometimes stinginess regarding friends. We know a good friend but don't want to introduce them to anyone else. Fearing that if others get to know them too, our relationship will be diluted. Only that one person knows me. If I introduce them to others, others will get acquainted, and the affection will be divided. And maybe this person gives me many things, but I fear if others know, they will also receive, and eventually I will receive less. Stinginess regarding the Dharma. Therefore, in the sutras, in the ceremony for feeding the hungry ghosts, what does it aim for? May you be replete, letting go of stinginess and greed. May all hungry ghosts be fully satisfied and abandon stinginess. Usually, when we go to a buffet, we take food. When we are full, we take different food. When we are tired of it, we take something else. When hungry and tired of it, we even complain it's bad and take something else. So, people act according to circumstances. Sometimes when we go to a buffet, initially we just take things, take them, but halfway through eating, we feel very hungry. But when we are full, we know immediately, the next meal, we're tired of it, and we even know how to save some. For example, so when we have enough, we immediately let go. But many people, even when full, still want to hoard things to save for later. This is precisely stinginess. What is jealousy? Jealousy means envy. We already know greed. What is deceit? Deceit is trickery, cheating others, deceiving people regarding both affection and money. And if deceit is present, it hinders straightforwardness in people. Deceiving about unnecessary things is still deceit, because it becomes a habit. Things that don't require lying. Yet one still lies that becomes deceit. So, stinginess, jealousy, greed, deceit. Our minds should not have these. These are unwholesome mental states according to the Abhidharma, Mahayana Sutras. These are sutras containing profound meanings. But sometimes if we don't understand, we criticize them. For example, when you read the Ksitigarbha Sutra, the Lotus Sutra, they mention things that are hard for us to accept. But remember, if there are things we don't know, haven't understood the deep meaning of, we shouldn't rush to judge, lest we err, nor clinging to wealth and status, arrogance and dissipation. Why shouldn't we cling? Because how long does wealth last? Do you remember the line, remembering Kings Kai and Shur Chong of yore? And what else? Fame and fortune, wealth and honor, also belong to just one era of life. Return them to life. Wealthy, but avoiding reincarnation. Is that possible? Do you know about Wang Kai and Shur Chong? Wang Kai and Shur Chong were two wealthy men. They were excessively rich. With nothing else to do, they got bored and started competing against each other. My family versus yours. Let's compete. If my house has this item and yours doesn't, you lose. Finally, Wang Kai, for example, brought out a chain. Shur Chong also had a chain. Wang Kai brought out a diamond. Shur Chong also had a diamond. Finally, Wang Kai brought out an earthen pot. Shur Chong didn't have an earthen pot. Why? Because rich households only cook with stainless steel pots. High-class pots, right? Who would have an earthen pot? So Shur Chong lost all his fortune. Wang Kai was furious. He died and turned into a wall lizard. Now, do you hear the wall lizard chirp? Wasted. Wasted. People from the south call it Tang Lon. People from the north call it Thatch Sung. And Thatch Sung is precisely the name of that historical figure, Shur Chong. So, that repentance text took these two characters as an example. Remembering Kings Kai and Shur Chong of yore, though wealthy and honored, it was only for one time, just one era, but ultimately, it belongs to the world, returned to the world. Wealthy, but avoiding reincarnation, hardly possible. So, even if we have wealth and status now, we shouldn't be attached. We know it's due to our meritorious fortune, conditioned merit, which is not imperishable. Our merit exists, so we have this. But these things are also temporary. Does our beauty last forever? No. Does our youth last forever? No. So, anyone attached to their beauty, their health, their wealth, their reputation in Buddhism, this is called pride. Pride means being proud, conceited about what one possesses. But why shouldn't we be proud? Because the things we have are not permanent. They don't last forever. For example, if I have health, should I boast and look down on an old lady? Remember that one day, I too will enter this age. So, when young, don't boast. When wealthy, don't boast. Because in this life, no one can guarantee they will be wealthy forever. When healthy, don't boast. So, pride coupled with attachment. What is attachment? Attachment is being engrossed, fixated on things we don't have yet, but we think we have them. For example, right now I'm eating sweet potatoes. Every morning I eat sweet potatoes, and I often call it, very elegantly, having sweet potatoes for breakfast. So I enjoy eating elegantly. Wait until I win the lottery. Then I'll get you a villa. For example, this is attachment. Not having it yet, but constantly thinking I have it. For example, not having. not clinging to wealth and status, arrogance and dissipation. When we have possessions, we often tend to be dissipative. What is that? Spending wastefully, without thinking. The word dissipation means letting go loosely, unable to restrain oneself. And usually, we humans, only when we have something, we are wasteful. For example, having wealth but not knowing how to use it thoughtfully, just spending wastefully. That's why those of you who have taken refuge often ask about the fifth precept. Can we drink alcohol? Because the fifth precept forbids drinking alcohol. I explains. Let's say, in our social life, we still have friends, social interactions. You are allowed to drink, but drink socially. Don't drink wastefully. Drink socially to maintain connections. Drinking socially means drinking in moderation, but drinking wastefully will lead to suffering. With sufficient patience and determination, never retreating. When we practice, whatever we do in life, we must have determination, just like we strive, persevere to raise our children, hoping they grow up wise. So, if I am a single mother or a single father, I must have a strong determination to live. Just like monks, if you undertake the monastic path without determination, it's very difficult to practice, because the monastic life is not stable in a worldly sense. Therefore, every practitioner must have their own determination. My determination is to propagate the Dharma for the benefit of sentient beings. My determination is to build monasteries, gather disciples, meaning opening temples, accepting disciples to teach. My determination is to engage actively in the world to serve society, that is, doing charity work. But remember, whether we are in the temple accepting disciples, teaching, practicing, or going out to give Dharma talks, teach sutras, or doing charitable work in society, although all these seem good, do people ever leave us in peace? Life never lets people praise and applaud us forever. People will inevitably have harsh words. If our determination is not strong, we cannot succeed. So, having determination requires perseverance. Do you remember the verse in the song, Respecting the Teacher? Today, teacher returns here. We respectfully welcome teacher in this joyful moment. So happy. What can we do? We know what to do. Like we vow to be diligent, not letting greed, anger, delusion extinguish. Continues with lyrics referencing the path of light and overcoming difficulties. The ideal we still venerate. Now we chant the repentance verse. Though having to endure myriad hardships, I wholeheartedly sacrifice for the path, relying on Guan Yin's compassion to find the jeweled citadel. The jeweled citadel is the ultimate place we want to reach. Attaining self-enlightenment and enlightening others. Perfected. On the path of practice, we enlighten ourselves. But on that path, if we see someone capable of being enlightened, we enlighten them too. That is called self-enlightenment and enlightening others. Self-benefit and benefiting others. Self-liberation and liberating others. That is the ideal of a practitioner. Therefore, determination without retreating. Delighting in tranquility in an aranya. Aranya, in Sanskrit, translates to tranquil or secluded. There are two scenarios. One is liking to live in a quiet place, like liking going up here, liking to be near the mountains and forests. Here, I go over to Tai Tien Monastery, liking to practice at Tai Tien Monastery because it's peaceful and quiet. Here, you can still hear the sounds of cars from the freeway. When you go up to Tai Tien, you hear nothing. Occasionally, the distant sound of a train. That's the environment of an Aranya. But if I like being in an Aranya environment, I must also have the practice of the Aranya ascetic. What is the practice of the Aranya ascetic? It's the practice of living simply. So, often people say, "Oh, that monk practices the Aranya asceticism." You know that means this venerable person practices. Simply put, asceticism, practicing asceticism, but actually, asceticism. The term Aranya just refers to those who like living in quiet, secluded places, tranquil and serene, not relying on relatives, gain, or fame. Usually, when we take refuge, the monks often say this, "Tomorrow you take refuge," right? By the way, do you know the word refuge? The character qui means to return. The character y means to rely on. Refuge means to return and rely on. But for a long time now, who have we relied on? Husband, children, family, relatives, community. But these reliances are different. How so? Because if they love us, they let us rely on them, lean on them. But if they don't love us, they withdraw, right? But when you rely on the triple gem, it doesn't change, because the nature of the triple gem is unchangeable. The triple gem has 6 meanings, one of which is unchangeable. Can I change towards the triple gem? Yes. Example, being sick, chanting constantly, but the illness doesn't get better. Suddenly, I go and pray to that rock over there, and the illness goes away. From then on, I stop worshiping the Buddha and worship the rock instead. For example, there are many such things. That's me being changeable. Or when I'm sick, I come, I seek, I pray, I do extravagant things. But once I'm healthy again, you won't see my face anywhere. But then, when I'm sad again, I come back looking for the Buddha, and the Buddha is still sitting there peacefully for me, unchanging, not changing. In other words, the Dharma of the Buddha does not discriminate against anyone. Anyone who suffers has the right to receive it, just the same. That's why recently, during the Buddha's birthday celebration, a Catholic gentleman came up and asked, "Teacher, I'm Catholic. Can I bathe the Buddha statue?" I said, "Yes, you can. Everyone needs bathing." Do you understand that sentence? It sounds like ordinary conversation, but if you think carefully, whose mind doesn't need washing? It's not just Buddhists who need washing, right? Everyone has to eat. Everyone has to bathe. So everyone needs purification. Bathing the Buddha is just a symbol of washing away the impurities of the mind. Can I pay homage? Yes, you can. Because paying homage is a symbol expressing a sincere and respectful heart. Conversely, can we Buddhist laypeople enter a church, bow our heads, and greet Jesus? Why not? And even lay Buddhists at home, worshipping Buddha upstairs, and worshipping ancestors downstairs. That monk comes, and not only pays homage to the Buddha, but even kneels before the Buddha image while also bowing to the ancestors. Is that okay? No problem. If a monk can live like that, then the teacher's virtue increases even more. Which ancestor would feel offended? Many venerables say bowing like that offends the ancestors. If a monk, for example, suppose my parents are still alive. It's not like the monk comes to my house and only bows to the Buddha statue, right? My parents are sitting there, and the monk walks past without greeting them. If my parents were alive and sitting there, the monk would have to. In fact, the monk would greet them even more warmly. Amit Ba Buddha, Madam, Are you well? Shakes hand and make a big fuss. But now, if deceased, they just sit in their designated place. I make 3 prostrations. What's the issue? So, our mind must be the mind of Mahayana. The word Mahayana doesn't mean a specific doctrine. It's the way our mind lives. You do a very small deed, but you do it with a Mahayana mind. That's why Mother Teresa said it very well. You don't have to do something great. You can do something small with your great heart. You don't need to do big things. Just doing a small thing is fine. But doing that small thing with a vast heart. So, lay Buddhists, we need to understand the terms Mahayana and Hinayana beyond the meanings we usually think of. Small means small. Large means large. It's not about the amount, not about the shape, but about the capacity of the mind. Having 1 bowl of rice but sharing it with 30 people, that bowl of rice is Mahayana rice. Speaking in terms of Vietnamese legends, it's Thach San's rice pot. Therefore, the word refuge means to rely on the triple gem because, just like children can refuse their parents, parents never refuse their children, right? Going around the round earth, weary within, there is no one but my mother. Throughout this life, the one who waits for me most is only my mother. Even a lover, if they wait devotedly, it's only for a time, not for long. Only parents. The Buddha is the same. The triple gem is the same. That's why it says here, we don't rely. Meaning, don't cling. Because the minds of sentient beings change. That's all. Nothing else. But if we get attached to that, we suffer. Not relying on relatives, gain, or fame. These 2 are even worse, causing more suffering. Gain and fame. I has a repentance chant. I modified the lyrics slightly. Do you remember the song where, knowing you carry the life of a musician, spending nights in the tea room, singing for others? What's the name of that song? I also modified it a bit. Having worn the robes of a practitioner, I vow to bring the Dharma to the world. May I never retreat. Remain steadfast. O friends, let's walk together in holy leisure, hearts pure and bright. O friends, please look within. Throughout life, know that the life of a monastic is joyful and peaceful. In it, there's the line, love, I fear, love, the practitioner. Reputation, I fear, reputation. Because reputation is like fragrant flowers. If tomorrow I lose my reputation, I suffer greatly. We humans have 2 main sources of suffering. If not gain, then fame. For example, right now, I'm not famous yet. Being famous means having reputation. But often, we use reputation to seek gain, right? Often in life, there are many people who only have a lot of money but lack reputation. So they use money to seek reputation. Many people have reputation but lack money, lack gain. So they borrow their reputation to seek gain. Hence, it's called gain and fame. Usually, the ancient sages often taught, blindly pursuing wealth keeps one in the village. Pursuing official rank deceives like Tsong Khan. Do you remember those lines? Where are they from? I think it's from Lament of an Odalisque. The Nam Ka dream rudely disturbed, waking with empty hands. The ancients often compared gain and fame to just a trap. Like chewing sugarcane, we chew it, extract the juice, then spit out the pulp. Alcohol made from glutinous rice. From rice. By people it's just the dregs. So, the smell is the smell of the village cemetery. What is it? The trap of official rank deceives Tsong Khan. Song Khan refers to officials. Official rank has lured those people. The trap of officialdom deceived Song Khan. But ultimately, the Nam Ka dream rudely disturbed, waking with empty hands. Nam Ka is a short dream. There was a man going to take the imperial exam. On his way back, he fell asleep under a tree. He dreamed he passed the exam, became an official. The king married him to the princess. He became the imperial son-in-law, gained much fame, many positions. Then one day, the king sent him to fight invaders. He lost the battle, returned, and the king ordered his head chopped off. The moment his head was cut off, "But, let me go." He woke with a start, seeing ants biting near the edge of the tree root. That's why people often use sayings comparing gain and fame to just a pot, a meal of millet porridge. Wealth hasn't even finished cooking in one pot of millet. Do you know millet? Does millet cook fast or slow? Cover the lid, cook a short while, and it's done, right? Yet wealth is so fleeting. It comes so quickly that the millet isn't even cooked before gain and fame have already vanished. Not relying on relatives. So, now that we've come here, we see. Within our hearts, we have these realizations. For example, yesterday, an employee came complaining to I about work. They were being pushed out by superiors. Finally, I just told them, "Child, just consider it as not having enough affinity with that place. Be light about it." Then they said. At that moment, I also felt fleetingly sad because I thought I had handled everything within my capacity. But when they found fault with me, I also explained. But ultimately, they were not pleased. Because sometimes, people in certain positions cannot accept perceived slights. Like a king who cannot accept being slighted and must chop off heads. It's the same. So, when we are light about it, oh well, forget it. If I lose this connection. I'll build another connection. When I lighten up like that, I get a flash of light, the light of what? Fame and fortune. That chant where one has to endure for 2 months while serving tea. Life resembles a dream. Fame and fortune. What time is there to desire them? Life is like firecrackers, isn't it? The louder they explode, the more debris there is. The patriarch said, "People of the world, think carefully. If you don't plan now, what will happen later? How can the body, like a firecracker already lit, sit exploding loudly for a moment, then see what happens? It just needs to stop. Just like that Buddhist devotee present here, whose relative passed away very quickly, without even thinking about it. So, we have things. But it's not that the venerables tell us to abandon everything. But for example, if we happen to lose something, we feel a bit sad. Then we flash the light of wisdom. Everything must be let go. Therefore, the Buddha taught in the Sutra Island Self-Body, monks must contemplate like a branch of a tree. Whichever branch is tallest must break and fall first. In this assembly sitting here, whoever is older, mostly, will likely pass away first before the younger ones. Of course, there are exceptions. But we look at the general pattern. Whoever is older must depart first. Even I am the same. The Buddha said it. After the Buddha spoke that sentence. Even I am the same. One day, I too must depart. Let go of you monks. Therefore, the only reliable refuge is the true Dharma. What is the true Dharma? It is the truth, the reality. So, whenever we feel discouraged, the true Dharma is present, helping us brighten up. For example, if I lose possessions, or if I accidentally break something, Naturally, a phrase comes to mind. The Chinese have a very good saying, if you accidentally drop and break a cup, instead of regretting the loss, say flowers blossom. Wealth and honor. Flowers blossoming signify the arrival of wealth and honor. Meaning, it's like the lid falling off. Like a flower blooming that signifies wealth and honor has arrived. There was one year, the beginning of 2021. It was extremely cold at Tai Tien Monastery. The water pipes broke. The entire main hall's water pipes broke. Everything. It was like the pipes froze and burst. Then the water flooded out, damaging the toilets upstairs in the main hall. All the toilet bowls broke. Can you imagine? Froze solid. Cracked. Broke everything. That year, there was also a fire. Another year, there was a flood. We spent so much money. It was almost unbearable. But still, we consoled ourselves. It's okay. We have money. We have water. We have money. The zodiac year rooster fixes the ox year. Saying it like that, knowing we have to spend, but saying it to encourage ourselves. Fire. It's okay. Fire burns away all misfortunes. So, you all chant, eliminate calamities. Bring auspiciousness. The mantra, Om Kuru Kuru Hai Hong Hong. Fire. Fire. Blaze up. Fire. Blaze up. Burn away all misfortune. All illness. That line, Om Ki Hai Hong Hong. This emptiness. Let's drink dry. Drink dry all this suffering. This illness. Fire. Blaze up. Blaze up to incinerate these calamities. These are the meanings of the mantra for eliminating calamities and bringing auspiciousness. You chant, Namo Samanta Motanam. Pratihite Hasvaha. Fire. Fire. Blaze up. Burn this calamity. Emptiness. Drink dry. Drink dry the sources of misfortune. So, we flash the light of the true Dharma. Therefore, the Buddha taught, monks, do not rely on anyone. Although normally, the venerables still teach to rely on the teacher. Rely on this person. But in our hearts, we still know all this reliance is temporary. Just like having a winter coat. It's cold. I put on the coat, relying on the coat. But it's only during winter that I rely on it. When it's hot, several tens of degrees Celsius, what reliance is there? At that point, I have to take it off. So the Zen masters, the ancients, said it like this: living is like wearing a cotton blanket. Dying is like taking off summer clothes. Living, we borrow this body. We live, just like people who are cold borrow a cotton blanket and wrap themselves in it to stay warm. That's it. Living is like wearing a cotton blanket, means while living, we must rely on water, rely on rice, rely on food, rely on bread, rely on everything, right? So, we rely, don't we? But remember, all these reliances are not permanent, not forever. When morning comes, rely on a bowl of congee, right? Rely on a rice pyramid dumpling. Rely on what else? Rely on a loaf of bread. Rely on a glass of milk. Heavens, relying on so much in the morning. But by 12 o'clock noon, all these reliances are gone, returned to the heavens. In the story, he goes off to rely on something else. Then we rely like that. Then after a few hours, hunger returns, making us seek reliance again. When young, holding a walking stick felt embarrassing. Didn't carry one. When old, my stick, where is it? I'm in pain, right? When I was young, just started high school. Oh my goodness. I saw my friends wearing glasses. They looked so intellectual. Hey, let me borrow them to wear. Why are you wearing them? Wear them so I look intellectual like you. You wear them. Your eyes will get ruined. Oh, I pray my eyes get ruined quickly so I can wear glasses. Then, when my eyes really did get ruined, oh dear, it was miserable. Because wearing them is uncomfortable. But taking them off is comfortable. But then you stand up, forget, step on them, and they break. They break constantly. So, we know that the things we rely on, we need to rely on them. But in our minds, a light still flashes. This is just temporary reliance. That's why the ancients often reminded us, life is a temporary lodging. Death is returning. Life is sending oneself on lodging. Life is lodging. So, living is sending oneself, right? Sending what? This body is sent here. That's why I likes chanting repentance texts. Those texts are very good. People in the world who can easily live long. This life, this body, is just sent here temporarily. This is where we send everything. Therefore, the Zen masters say, living is like wearing a cotton blanket. Now you're cold. You borrow a cotton blanket to wrap yourself in. It's no different from us living, borrowing everything. But when we've had enough, you see, when it's time, when we're hungry, whatever is offered, we take it without leaving even the peel. But when full, oh dear, offering food, eat, 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 saying it nicely, eat a little to help me out. Or if being profound, later I'll bring some for you, for him, her. But in reality, give it to me like that. I'm too full. Sending everything away, relying on nothing. But in the heart, still knowing we relied on all that. Living is called life as lodging. Death is returning. Living is lodging. Dying is returning. So now, we live and we lodge our bodies on the face of the earth. When it's time, we lie down peacefully in that spot, having to lodge our body beneath the ground. Then we have to go out and ask the local earth spirit. When I was alive, whichever house I entered, I had to ask permission from Mr. Earth Spirit. Let me stay here. When I die, carried out there, let me lodge here for a bit. Lodging, right? Even when you make offerings to the venerable monks, you agree to lodge merit, don't you? Teacher, let me send merit. I jokes. Which leg are you sending? Take it. So, dear assembly, saying this means we shouldn't misunderstand the Buddha's intention, thinking he tells us to let go of everything. Recognize what needs reliance. We don't have to. We must rely. But all these reliances are only temporary. For when we need them, just like if you don't understand, you borrow the meaning of words. Rely on the meaning of words. But once you grasp the idea, forget the words. Don't see the moon. Take the finger pointing here. The moon is here. See the moon. Then don't mistake the finger for the moon. The sutras often use this analogy, just like pointing to the moon with a finger. All the sutras and teachings are like a finger pointing to the moon. Once you see the moon, just gaze at the moon and don't stare at the finger. It's just a means of pointing. The scriptures are the same. Scriptures are teachings given so we can realize the way. But once you realize the way, don't cling to words and letters. Because we might cling to words. The Buddha declared, I taught the Dharma for 45 years, yet I have never spoken a single word. Because the venerables feared we would get stuck on words and letters. That's why. From the Tang dynasty monks traveling to the west to fetch scriptures. They sought the true scriptures. True scriptures have no words. The ultimate point of the way cannot be expressed in language or letters. But for us now, in life, we have to show people something we cherish, love, understand. So the venerables often use the phrase, "May the wise ones receive the meaning and forget the words." I write books for people to read, but after reading the book, grasp the meaning. Don't get stuck on the words and letters, the doctrinal points. And what else does the teaching teach us? Rely on the meaning, not the words. Rely on the meaning, but don't rely. Rely on the meaning, but don't rely on the words. Because sometimes the words cause us suffering. For example, if someone from Hue meets older ladies and calls them moo, we are happy meeting someone from the South and calling them hey, old woman, is unacceptable, right? So, it's the same word, but going out there a bit. We are happy seeing the word is lofty and beautiful. Coming in here, the meaning of the word. The word moo sounds strange. See, but if we can recognize it, don't stumble over the word. Just grasp the meaning. Rely on the meaning. Rely on the meaning, not the words. Rely on wisdom, not consciousness. Rely on recognizing wisdom. Don't rely on our own perception. Perception is mistaken. That's why the Buddha called it deluded thinking or wrong perception. I explains this point clearly so the assembly doesn't misunderstand the Buddha's intention. Doesn't think Buddhism teaches us to let go completely. No. Whatever we need, just accept. But while accepting, still know it's temporary. We still have this body. If sick, take medicine. Okay. Sick, must take medicine. Don't say, "Oh, Buddha taught this body is illusory. Why take medicine? Why eat? Eat." And later it comes out anyway. What's the point of eating? Ultimately, doing nothing at all. Not knowing that eating also comes out. But one must eat. Eat for what? To live. Live for what? Live to practice. Borrow this body to practice. Because if this body is lost, it's a great waste. Because who knows when we'll get another one. Once a human body is lost, it may not be regained in 10,000 eons. Losing the human body once, even after 10,000 eons, we might still not know if we can obtain another body. And even if we get a body, what guarantee is there that the body will be complete? Hands, nose, mouth, body, mind. Maybe we are born with a deficient body. So we know that in this life, we have obtained this body. And if we were to be completely honest, perhaps we have wasted 50 years, not knowing how to use this body. For 50 years already. Now, the remaining years, who knows how many? So we must quickly practice before it's too late. Since understanding the way, one must strive to practice. Practice doesn't mean shaving the head, wearing robes, striking the bell or wooden fish. Because real practice uses wisdom to adjust behavior. Practice means changing, correcting one's behavior. 50 years ago, I lived badly. When I spoke, people felt sad. When they looked at me, they were scared. When near me, they trembled. Now, I practice. How? So that when people look at me, they feel affection. When near me, they like it. Whereas before, when they looked at me, they were afraid. Just my presence made them tremble over there. Therefore, the sutras, the Dhammapada uses the analogy, like many flowers strung together to make a garland. Just this body born into samsara can do many good deeds. Do you see? Everyone has one life, one person, one lifespan. But if our will is strong within that body, this body can do countless good deeds. Many wholesome, beneficial actions, not wasted. Understand that point. Then we understand the true Buddhist path. The Buddhist path does not teach us to abandon everything, but not to be attached. If needed, just borrow, rely, but without suffering. Therefore, people say, if you abandon, this compassionate detachment. If you cling, this transgression, right? Buddhism teaches differently. Abandon with compassion. Cling without burden. Why? Because when others cling, they feel it as karma. But when we cling, we see it as a vow. For example, suppose I happen to raise a child who is sick and disabled. Someone who doesn't understand might say, "Oh heavens, what evil did I do to deserve this?" Buddhists don't say that. Truly, living in this world, if we pay a little attention, we will see that there are people supporting us in many ways. If not much, then a little bit, not nothing at all. But sometimes, we lack sufficient mindfulness to recognize it. We think we have to do something really big. But in reality, for example, now I meet someone, I come home from work, and my husband or wife, or my child asks, "How was your day? Mom, are you tired from work?" Naturally, I feel happy, seeing they care about me. Noticing I look tired, they quickly pour a glass of orange juice for me to drink to feel better. Just small things like that. But suddenly my life, my environment feels very peaceful. So we should live to protect each other's environment. For example, I know that if I go out somewhere late and don't come home, usually there will be trouble. Come home early. Let the house be peaceful. Sometimes I go out to have fun in my environment, while the environment at home is worrying. Then I get home, and he opens the door. She says a couple of words, and I get annoyed. The two environments start fighting. Then the kids sitting in their room say, "Oh my God, it's 11 p.m., and the two countries are still at war. Isn't that suffering?" Therefore, wherever there are kind words, gentle words, good words, that place, the environment is auspicious. That's the first thing, right? And the second is what? Guardian deities are harmonious and joyful. If we talk about the country, it means that place, from the king down to the spirits and people, are all harmonious and happy. Truly, country, palace, a dynasty where spirits and the king can connect and converse is very different. Nowadays, in our homes too, it's the same. You see, like we have one hand, 5 fingers. If one finger hurts, the other fingers also feel uncomfortable. Conversely, if this hand hurts, this hand naturally wraps around it. They don't abandon each other. If the foot hurts, this hand immediately reaches down. If the head hurts, this hand immediately goes up. Therefore, the 5 fingers on one hand still call out far, supporting each other. Where they call out far is that they always know how to care for each other. So why do images of Buddhas always use hand mudras? Sometimes this mudra, sometimes that mudra, sometimes this one, sometimes that one. Because all harmony, all care, all nourishment, all nurturing is not outside the scope of the hand. Notice, taking water to drink hand, taking medicine hand. Someone is suffering, reach out a hand. Patting the shoulder affectionately, whispering words of compassion, stroking the head, all the hand. Wherever our hand reaches, There is happiness. There is peace. That's why Buddhas use hand mudras. You see Buddha statues with the hand like this. This is granting blessings. If the Buddha holds the hand level like this, what does it mean? Fearlessness. Guan Yin Bodhisattva's mudra is auspiciousness. If making this mudra good. Okay, right? If making this mudra you number one. All mudras are what? Mudras are symbols. And mudras are expressions flowing from the mind. For example, when we talk, we have to wave our hands, gesture with our feet Y, to express me like this. But sometimes when we are very angry, there's also an expression of that mudra. You watch out. See. But when we love someone, the hand is different. So, within a family with each other, our hands. Why does Guan Yin Bodhisattva have 1,000 arms? Why does Kundi Bodhisattva have 18 arms? No Bodhisattva is idle. A Bodhisattva with 1,000 hands, if I saw that, I'd run away. But that's a symbol. In reality, they all just have 2 normal hands. But if the mind of loving kindness flows forth, it's not just 18 arms, but 1,000 arms. Do you see? Today, this afternoon, these hands, how could 2 hands manage? 2 hands could manage. At that moment, hundreds of hands reached out, right? That's what it is. Guardian deities are harmonious and joyful. Doing it, but not getting tired. There are drivers who drive for 6 hours. Are they suffering? No suffering. Sitting here just now. Was I tired? Not tired. Endured it. If my child came home and talked to me, I'm so tired. Mom, go talk to Dad. Don't talk like that. If I talk like that, I'm teaching my child. Don't talk to me anymore. Then later, they reach the age where they don't talk anymore. Then what? Even trying to bribe them, they won't talk anymore. Because initially, when they just open their mouth, I shut them down. Sometimes they sit and tell stories about school, about class. We have to listen. Let I tell you a story I just heard recently. There was a young child who went to school and became depressed. Couldn't talk to anyone. Went for counseling. Didn't help. In the end, only her mother saved her. Every day after coming home from work, tired as she was, Mom washed her face, finished dinner, then sat down again. The 2 of them, mother and child, talked. Just talking. Her English wasn't much. She spoke mostly English. Occasionally 1 or 2 Vietnamese words. Only spoke English mixed with Vietnamese. Plus hand gestures. Waving hands and feet. So, her triple gem was just English, Vietnamese, and waving hands. But after just 1 month, the child lightened up. She released it. So, in foreign countries like this, or generally nowadays, in this era, sometimes with our children, you notice, around 15, 13, 15 years old, they come home and start closing their bedroom door, start to gradually have less contact with us. Now, if we want contact, we have to go to them. And now, going to them means having to knock on the door. If you open their door without permission, next time there will be a huge sign posted, "Please knock." Has that happened yet? Not yet. Well, if you react emotionally to that, it's fatal. They won't understand your emotional reaction. How can I say it so they will listen? Just so. We hear the Dharma phrase, the environment is called auspicious. But that is just the environment, the circumstances. Now we begin to address parents. So, long ago, Did you know that kings and emperors often organized Dharma assemblies? Back in the Tang dynasty in China, it was very prosperous. The Tang emperors, every 3 years, would go to Famen Temple to pay homage to the Buddha's relics, respectfully invite the relics back to Chang'an, to the imperial palace, for the enjoyment of the court officials. They worshipped the relics, but the place where the relics were kept was like a deep cave vault. The emperor himself had to kneel down, crawl inside, to respectfully invite the relics out. And when doing so, they organized 2 processions, one carrying fake relics, one carrying the real relics, because people feared bandits might try to steal them. When the Tang dynasty began to decline, people took all the relics and valuables and buried them in that vault. They sealed it up. Altogether, nearly 200 items were in that stone vault. They closed the door. Did you know? For over 1,000 years, nobody knew it contained treasures underneath. Until 1985, due to a flood, the pagoda collapsed. When the pagoda collapsed, people organized its reconstruction. Unexpectedly, while dismantling and lifting the pagoda structure, they discovered underneath it a vault containing the finger bone relic of the Buddha and those treasures, all meticulously recorded. And among them were 2 relics, one fake, one real. And how to tell which one is fake? Because bone, after a long time, develops cracks. One fake path was recreated using plastic, also cracked just like the real one, but the crack was very straight, like someone took a knife and cut into the plastic while it was still soft, a very straight line. When I went there, the guides tested Look, how do you know which relic is real, which is fake? I immediately said, this one is fake, because this line is too straight. But I see a crack line that is very natural on one finger bone. So I know this is the fake relic. This is the real relic. In Vietnam too, during the era when Buddhism flourished under the Lai and Tran dynasties, the kings all organized assemblies. So, if even kings and emperors organized Dharma assemblies, dear assembly, large temples had to be built by the king. Commoners' money couldn't build large temples. They all had to be funded by the royal treasury, by the king himself, to be built. Therefore, when the phrase expounding sutras is mentioned here, it means we still hear the Dharma and we still practice the Dharma. Because if we just hear the teachings, but don't apply them, then we cannot have the harmonious guardian deities, cannot have the auspicious environment. In the sutras, the Buddha mentions categories of virtuous people. 1. The person who speaks the Dharma. 2. The person who hears the Dharma. 3. The person who understands the Dharma. 4. The person who applies the Dharma. 5. The person who is grateful, or what is called an awakened being who has transcended the world. You see now, many listen to the Dharma, but few understand the Dharma. Even fewer practice the Dharma. So, the speaker is precious already, but the listener has 3 levels. To listen, understand, and practice is precious. Because why? Because even if I don't understand yet, at least my ears are purified. My eyes are purified. It purifies my seeing and hearing. But then, if I can understand it too, it's even more precious. And if I can apply it, it's extremely precious. So, when we apply it, what happens? Harmonious guardian deities. Our family begins to change. Husband and wife speak differently. So, if a husband and wife hear the Dharma, understand the Dharma, practice the Dharma, they must remember, if their spouse hasn't been able to do something yet, they should try to help them do it. so it can be actualized. That's the second aspect, called harmonious guardian deities. Or put another way, husband and wife, family, enjoy happiness together. Notice, it's not just families. Right here in the temple, it's the same. In the temple too. If Dharma brothers and sisters come to the temple to do merit work together joyfully, speaking kind words to each other, the temple is peaceful. The abbot has less trouble, less fatigue. Conversely, if Dharma brothers and sisters come to the temple to do merit work but are unhappy, picking at each other with every sentence, every word, the abbot gets a huge headache. Often, he doesn't even dare go down to the kitchen anymore, just stays upstairs. He might as well attain nirvana right there, rather than dare go down. So, if we love the abbot, love the temple, love the path, I often say, I want this temple to develop, then please correct those habits of yours. So the guardian deities are harmonious and joyful. So the environment is auspicious. The environment is the environment. The guardian deities are the people interacting with each other. That's all. Therefore, the Buddha stated very clearly in the sutras, the speaker of Dharma is precious. The listener of Dharma is precious. The understander of Dharma is precious. The practitioner of Dharma is precious. Right? Very precious. Now that we've completed the 4 points, that's the first step, right? Try to understand a little. After understanding, apply a little, and naturally, there is peace. And the third is national populace is wealthy and long-lived. With benefit. What is wealth? Rich. What is longevity? Long life. What is benefit? Increase. If a family understands the way, knows how to practice, then naturally that family's life. If we talk about lifespan, less sadness, less suffering, means fewer illnesses, less mental distress. Fewer illnesses means living longer. Conversely, if a family argues all day, how easily does it lead to the end of family happiness? The lifespan, the happiness, becomes short. The word longevity has 2 meanings here. Longevity relates to the length of the relationship between husband and wife, depending on their practice. Also, if someone worries and suffers a lot, they easily get sick, especially holding onto blocks of resentment, suffering, and pain within. More illness means shorter lifespan. So, if we love our relatives, we should make them happy. When they are happy and joyful, especially when sick, we should know their illness and act without causing them more suffering or worry. Then their lifespan will be longer. That's regarding longevity. Regarding wealth, if the whole family lives with mindfulness, knows how to practice, reduces unnecessary things, then naturally there will be surplus. Example, now, the husband gambles heavily. The wife gambles heavily. Isn't that lack? But if the couple develops wisdom together, husband and wife develop the same intention together. Okay, B and I have played enough. We see there's no benefit, just waste of money, causing hardship. Now we resolve to stop playing. Is there surplus? Yes. Then, the husband used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Now he reduces to 1 pack, saving 1 pack, then reduces further until he quits smoking completely. The money saved. So, then the wife, because the husband was always out, felt sad, went shopping, also spent a lot. For example, so, if we understand the principles of the way, live knowing what is needed, what to keep, what to let go of, then naturally that family will have wealth and longevity. Wealth means having surplus, being well off. Now, I don't dare say rich, just surplus. Having surplus. Sometimes we have the habit of buying a lot of things but not using them all. Then we throw them away. Now we also need to practice rethinking. Just enough is fine. We shouldn't be stingy, but we also shouldn't be wasteful. Because when we have things, that is our merit. When we waste excessively, that merit is reduced. Later, when the merit runs out, naturally we have nothing left. So, pay attention to that. Conversely, now, in the imperial palace, if a king indulges excessively, the national treasury will be depleted. But if he knows how to care for the people, think for the country, then naturally the country's wealth will be abundant. He can open the storehouses to provide relief. Save. Do you see, America isn't short of debt? But wherever there's a natural disaster, America is present. Opening the nation's funds to spread relief to that place. Not just America, but other countries too. So, merit is not lost, even though it fluctuates, sometimes rising, sometimes falling, sometimes up, sometimes down. Ultimately, America is still number one, so we know its merit. And now, we are the same. Times when we are struggling, times when we lose things suddenly. But surely, we don't reach the point of destitution because we still have a little something to manage during difficult times. Then after that, everything becomes peaceful again. That is wealth. Longevity, increase, benefit. It's not just ordinary. It's thanks to our practice. Earlier, on the way here, Mr. Hong mentioned, according to the weather forecast, it wasn't supposed to rain today, but the past 2 or 3 days going up to the Dharma market, it was said 90% chance of rain these 2 days. But today's forecast said no rain. Yet, just as I's car got close, there was a downpour. Then after the rain, the sun came out again. On the way back here, there was a rainbow. Mr. Hong said, "Wow, it's beautiful today." Maybe, possibly, it's thanks to the merit, the devotion to goodness of our assembly. We don't know. Some things are attracted and are inconceivable. Inconceivable. For example, suppose we organize an event like this today. In the organizing committee, there might be 5 people. They are frantically busy. Suddenly, there's a shortage of chairs. Some brothers arrive. It's not like they just sit and watch, right? They roll up their sleeves, help out, and suddenly everything falls into place. Inconceivable. It's not aligned. But you see, I has been to many retreats and seen it clearly. Some retreats are huge, and you'd think the kitchen team couldn't possibly manage. But later, everything falls into place, remarkably. So we must believe in that. The word believe here doesn't mean blind faith. But what do we believe in? We believe that if we do good, do wholesome deeds, do no evil, make no mistakes, then we will never encounter unwholesome conditions. If we do encounter them, they will be light, and our minds will remain calm. They just pass by, without causing suffering or attachment. Be assured of that. Later, the Buddha also mentioned in the Sutra 6 aspects of steadfastness. Not abstinence, but steadfastness or resoluteness, strong and firm. Among them is steadfast faith. Do you know, when I travels in Europe, Australia, sometimes when Hoa goes through different continents and works long hours, 7 a.m. already out of the monastery, 11 p.m. maybe returning home. arriving home to find Buddhists waiting patiently, receiving guests until 2 a.m., then 3 a.m., finally get to wash up, lie down for a bit, then 6 a.m. again. One day, giving 4 Dharma talks, each talk 2 hours long, and the time I spends traveling, maybe 5 weeks in Europe, or 3 weeks in Australia. It's fine. The power of the mind. Sometimes the body is tired, but the mental strength is strong. It overcomes everything. Having that steadfast faith. Today I have a talk, so I must try my best. At home, I rarely takes medicine. If I do, mostly it's natural remedies, hot water, ginger water, lemon water, honey water. But, to save it for when I travel to give talks. If I get sick then, taking medicine works quickly. If I take it constantly, it becomes resistant, ineffective. So, having accepted the commitment, I must endure the hardship, maintain the image, called national populace providing for the teacher. And the last is what? Dharma master benefits self and others. If there is a place where a Dharma master comes to teach, that Dharma master benefits others, meaning bringing benefit to everyone. But actually, while the Dharma master is teaching, the Dharma master also benefits a little. But, if we talk about learning, it's thanks to the assembly being willing to listen that the Dharma master is willing to research, willing to study, strives, remembers, so he can come up and present it. So the listeners benefit second, but the speaker benefits first, because they are the one who received it first, then later repeats it for the assembly to hear. Isn't that right? Or conversely, for example, just now when the assembly had just gathered, it was a bit noisy, so I guided everyone to sit in meditation. Taking advantage, I sat too, because I had been traveling for 4 hours earlier and was very tired. The assembly breathes. I breathe too, right? Or, for example, sometimes, arriving at a place to teach, and just before teaching, according to the schedule, after the talk is lunchtime, the organizing committee slips a note up, "Teacher, please stall for time. The food isn't ready yet." Oh heavens! At that point, I have to muster all my inner strength. Use up so much bait. How? An hour and a half isn't enough. 2 hours isn't enough either. Then the beginning part of the talk is laid out, inviting the assembly to sing a song. I also sing along. So ultimately, what does it become? Stalling for time. When we do anything, everyone, just remember this, any good deed we do for someone, the person who receives the goodness is the second person. And the first person to receive the good deed, it's ourselves. Dharma. I gives an example. I wants to invite the bell sound for the assembly to hear, so everyone can be calm and settled. But before I invites this bell sound, I must hold the bell mallet, and I's own body and mind must be settled before he can produce a sound of settling clarity. If I is angry, I is not the one inviting the bell sound, but the one hitting the bell or striking the bell, not inviting the bell in the temple context. We don't use the term hitting the bell or striking the bell. We use the term inviting the bell sound. Invite means to invite. For example, inviting the teacher. Inviting the bell sound is inviting the bell sound to arise. And when we invite the bell sound, we must respect the bell sound. And the person inviting must have body and mind settled and calm. Therefore, the person inviting the bell must have their 3 karmas: body, speech, mind calm and pure, sending forth the aspiration with the sound, following the bell sound. May hearers awaken, transcending the path of sorrow and suffering. Calm like that, then you strike the bell once, and those below become calm and settled. But if I'm angry and strike it hard once, those below will say, too harsh, too harsh. The bell sound is very discordant, not settling. Another example, suppose I cook a dish to treat guests. Later, the guests eat and will praise it as delicious. But who tasted it first? Me. I am the cook. So, the person who cooks gets to enjoy it first. Then the guests I invite are the second ones. I uses an example like that. So it's clear when we do good deeds, the first beneficiary is ourselves. Then comes the second person. Conversely, if we behave badly, the bad intention wanting to harm someone who receives that bad thought first. Me too. Just like the old saying, holding blood in the mouth to spit on others. First defile one's own mouth. If I hold a mouthful of blood to spit on someone, they are the second person to get their clothes or face dirty. But who gets dirty first? Me. Right? So, when we do something wholesome or good for someone, we benefit ourselves first, then benefit others. Have you flown on an airplane? Before the plane takes off, they always announce, if there's any incident, the oxygen masks will drop from the ceiling. Please put yours on first, then help the person next to you. We must have peace ourselves first. Then we can talk about bringing peace to others. I gives an example, a new singer practicing. Okay, when they step onto the stage and sing really well for the audience to hear. Who hears it first? The singer hears it. Their relatives hear it. But the very first listener is the singer hearing their own voice awkward. Really bad. Gradually transforming into really good singing. And if the family members say, good, that's good. Or the people coaching them are harsh. Good. Then they go on stage to perform. When they perform, we are the second ones to receive that goodness. But first are those close to them and the singers themselves. So, when we do anything, we benefit both ourselves and others. That's the way of practice. For example, now I wants to read a sutra passage for the assembly to hear. I must memorize the sutra, or if not memorized, must know how to read it properly. Then I can speak. Or I wants to tell you all the 4 points from the sutra today. If there is still Dharma, still wholesome things I must continue to expound, then in that place, there is an auspicious environment, harmonious guardian deities, wealthy and long-lived populace, and the Dharma master benefits self and others. I had to learn this first, finish learning, grasp it, see its value, then share it. So, saying this is for us to see that any wholesome, good deed we do, don't think, I'm doing this to benefit someone else, and then feel self-important or arrogant. Instead, see clearly, thanks to that person, I first benefit myself. Do you remember Devdatta? He was the cousin of the Buddha. Cousins from different fathers. Cousins like Ananda was the paternal cousin. But when Devdatta became a monk under the Buddha, he constantly caused trouble in the Sangha, causing the Buddha much difficulty with this monk. But historical accounts say that Devdatta even conspired to roll a boulder from Vulture Peak Mountain intending to harm the Buddha, wanting the Buddha to die in that incident, because the Buddha was practicing walking meditation below the slope. So Devdatta stood high above, rolled the boulder down. Another time, he arranged for a drunken elephant to charge and crush the Buddha, meaning trample him to death. But in the end, the Buddha said that thanks to Devdatta, he perfected the path of highest patience. So, those people in this life, For example, if someone does something harmful to me, I endure it. Truly, I endure it for whose sake first? My own benefit. For example, that person provokes me. Now I'm angry. I assault them. I hit them. And even if I injured them, who is held responsible before the law? Dear Assembly, here the law states that cyclists and pedestrians must know the rules. But if I happen to hit them, it's my fault. Because they are pedestrians. Even if they were jaywalking, that's their fault. But within that, I bear the greater responsibility because I was driving a vehicle. So, in daily life, when we do anything for anyone, thinking simply like this makes us feel lighter immediately. Oh dear, they ate the food I cooked. I got to cook, and someone enjoyed the dish. Like that, I cook, and before I serve it to them, I also scoop a little into a bowl for myself to enjoy too. So, right away, both wholesome and unwholesome actions bring benefit or harm to ourselves first, then others. Now, conversely, for example, if I do something bad, and everyone there is happy about it, do I benefit from that? No benefit. Because now, you go into a workplace, you see this person, that person. If I just endure them, or if I say something that can transform them completely, naturally I benefit greatly too. Now, entering this shop, entering this company, there's no more jealousy, resentment, or harsh words. So, transforming one person through practice brings that much benefit and peace. For example, planting flowers in front of the house with the intention of enjoying them myself. But does the neighbor enjoy them? Yes. The neighbor also benefits from the beauty. So, the reason I think this way is so that when I do good deeds, I don't stop thinking about myself doing them. But I don't complain. Don't get discouraged. Don't give up. Even if tired sometimes. I might voice a complaint or two. But I'm not disheartened. Don't abandon the effort. We continue to do it because we know clearly one thing: when we do wholesome, good deeds, right at that moment, there is self-benefit and benefit to others. Self-benefit, benefit to others. And the Dharma, that Dharma master harmonizes body and mind. For example, just now I guided the assembly to sit in meditation. I also breathed along. In that very moment, while you all breathed, I also regulated his own body and mind. Earlier, coming in feeling agitated and tired, breathing for a few moments brought calmness. For example, now, I go somewhere, arrive at someone's house feeling very tired. I go in, lie down, rest my back. Later, I get up to work. That 10 minutes of resting my back, getting up later, brings benefit to many people. So, here, through the 4 points I shared with the assembly, wherever wholesome, good deeds appear, in that place, there are 4 benefits. 1. The environment is auspicious, meaning the environment. 2. What? Harmonious guardian deities, referring to people, right? 3. What? National populace is wealthy and strong, referring to lifespan/well-being. 4. What? Self-benefit and benefit to others, meaning we must see that when we do wholesome, good deeds, it benefits both sides. Now, conversely, if we do evil deeds, the influence is also on both sides. It's not like I make someone suffer and then I get to be happy. Have you watched Journey to the West yet? Do you remember a story in it where, when the master and disciples arrived at a monastery, Sun Wukong was very boastful. So he brought out the cassock of Xuanzang to show off. The abbot said, "What's that? Showing off robes. You want to show off? I'll show you." Then that monk opened a whole cabinet full of his robes. Hundreds of beautiful robes. That monk thought, "Xuanzang only has one robe. I have hundreds. How can he compare?" So, when he brought out the robes, Wukong laughed mockingly. "You can't compare to one robe of my master's." Xuanzang said, "Wukong, don't boast. Wukong, don't brag." Wukong grumbled, "Bragging is my profession. Master, how can you not let me brag?" Then Wukong took out Xuanzang's cassock. When the abbot saw Xuanzang's robe, he said, "Truly, only now are my eyes opened. I thought I was the one with many precious robes. Who knew this Eastern monk only has one robe? But his one robe surpasses my 100. Then the abbot said, "Could you possibly lend this robe to this poor monk for one night?" Then he took the robe back to his room, stroking it, imagining he thought, "Oh my, if I wear this robe, sit on the Dharma seat, and below me, it drapes down. Oh, how beautiful." He imagined it like that. He said, "Oh dear disciples, how can we get this robe?" The disciples said they'd figure it out. "Now let me think. Okay, now I'll gather firewood, burn down the Tang monk and his disciples while they sleep in this monastery. Then I'll get the robe. What's the worry? Oh dear. A brilliant plan. A brilliant plan." He even said it in Teochew dialect. Brilliant plan means saying it in Teochew too. So, the master and disciples gathered firewood, piled it up, set fire to the room, hoping Xuanzang would die so they could seize the robe. Unexpectedly, Sun Wukong heard the plot. Sun Wukong flew up to the heavens, borrowed a large bowl, returned, and covered Xuanzang's room right over. So the fire burned down the whole monastery, burned the abbot's robe cabinet too. Xuanzang slept soundly until morning. When morning came, Sun Wukong lifted the bowl, returned it to the heavens. Xuanzang stepped out of the room and said, "What happened?" Xuanzang was shocked. The disciples explained, "Oh dear, last night, this monastery burned down." Xuanzang said, "Heavens, could I have slept so soundly? Normally, during my practice, I'm not that unaware. How could the house burn down, everything burn, and I slept right through it?" But he didn't know his disciple had done that. So, dear assembly, that story just wants to remind us, when we give rise to an unwholesome thought, it's like flames that burn us. It's like flames that burn us. For example, I give rise to greed. What kind of greed? Wanting, knowing, but any unwholesome state I desire, then wanting to possess it. It's like flames burning me. At that moment, I lose rationality. Even a monk can lose rationality like anyone else. But in life, nothing we do escapes cause and effect. Therefore, Wukong represents wisdom, symbolizing wisdom. Only wisdom can hear the greedy mind. Only wisdom can hear the mind of anger. So, when I become angry, and I know I am angry, that means I know I have Sun Wukong present, symbolizing wisdom. Sun Wukong also symbolizes anger. Zhu Beiji symbolizes greed. Sha Wujing symbolizes delusion. And these three names, greed, anger, delusion, are the three disciples within us. Anyone practicing, no matter who, as long as they are human, has these three disciples. And these three disciples, We must train them fiercely, especially Mr. Sun Wukong, because he's too intelligent. And if this intelligence is not cultivated, this intelligence becomes deadly. That's why Xuanzang placed the golden headband on Sun Wukong's head. If he disobeys, chant the mantra to give him a headache. Therefore, when this fire of defilement flares up, there's one precious thing to remember. The story also tells that the abbot had allied himself with demons on the mountain. What do demons represent? Unwholesomeness. When our mind is not true, we think crooked thoughts. That's us associating with Mara demons or tempters. And Mara leads us down the path of Mara. Therefore, the word Mara in Buddhism, what does it mean? Mara means obstruction, hindrance, destruction of the wisdom I. That's called Mara. And the word Mara is not Vietnamese. Mara originally comes from the Sanskrit or Pali Mara. We abbreviate it to Ma. And later, we misunderstand Ma to mean something unknowable, imagining long-haired demons, sharp-toothed demons, tongue-lolling demons. So, dear assembly, there's a story in the book called The Smile. The Laugh of the Sage tells a story. If you draw a dog, a cat, a tiger, can be done. But drawing Mara, drawing those other animals is very difficult. But drawing Mara is the easiest. Why? Because who knows what Mara looks like? Whatever way you draw it, it's acceptable. But a dog, a cat, a tiger, people know their forms. If you draw them incorrectly, people know, right? So, in this world, people who speak falsely are like drawing Mara, hearing rumors fly, believing them fervently, but speaking the truth. People don't listen. So, you want to talk about gods, talk about saints, talk about Mara, because no one has seen Mara. Draw it however you like, and says Mara is fine too. But if you draw a tiger, draw an elephant without tusks, without the trunk, people know you've drawn it wrong. Only drawing Mara is easy to draw. Ultimately, the abbot, the venerable abbot, woke up in the morning to find the monastery completely burned down. The robe also gone, taken by Mara. But the master and disciples, Xuanzang, were still healthy. Only his own monastery was destroyed. And not only that, the robe he coveted was also lost the night before. Finally, he came out and cried, "Oh, my monastery! My robe! My robe!" For Xuanzang's robe. Do you know? The whole story just wants to highlight the meaning that when we are overcome by any demonic force of greed, anger, or delusion, it's like flames consuming us. And our mind, thinking unwholesomely, is like associating with demons and ghosts, right? No need to know specific demons. But the consequence is that when we want to burn others, that fire turns back and burns our own endeavors. So, here, if we think wholesome thoughts, think good thoughts, the very first moment is wholesome. Goodness has already arisen. For example, "Oh dear, I feel sorry for them. I feel compassion. Let me help that person." Before I even know if I can help, in that very instant, the wholesome mind has arisen. Too pitiful. Let me help. That thought, "I want to help," resides in my heart now. I promise to help. But next week, for some reason, I don't help. In my heart, that vow still remains. I promised but didn't help. I feel embarrassed. Too bad. Ultimately, the mind must incline towards doing good. It will guide me to do good, right? Because if I want to do a good deed but haven't done it yet, I keep it in my heart until I accomplish it. Then I feel relief. Conversely, if I'm angry, one day I'll hit him once. I hold onto it in my heart for a long time, nurturing it. The day I actually hit him hard. Not only that, but I say, I've been wanting to hit you for a long time. Today I finally. While hitting them, I even say it. I've been wanting to hit you for ages. Why? So they won't accept the beating willingly. Saying that so they know. So, tonight, I just wanted to share one thing with the assembly. First, because I sincerely praises the spirit of the Buddhists in this region who have not shied away from effort. Difficulty standing up to organize activities like this. To invite all of you, near and far, to come here so we can have an activity like this. I hope that seeing the value of such events, I chose this topic to share with everyone, so we can see why Dharma talks, organizing study sessions, are necessary, because if we can do these things, the benefits are immense. Conversely, we could organize a party, eat and have fun, which is also fun, but after that fun, everything is over. Nothing remains to linger in our minds or increase the benefit for us. But if it's like this, honestly, I has been speaking for an hour now. Some of you agree, some disagree. I cannot force everyone to agree completely, but any little bit that you agree with I on, I is already fulfilled, because I has spoken his heart. This person receives a little. That person receives a little. That's it. I'm done. Thank you very much everyone for being present together tonight. And if the assembly finds that tomorrow we have more time, then please come back tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Right? Tomorrow is a bonus. If the Vietnamese gathering is large, why speak English? There will be an additional part for Vietnamese speakers. And the assembly, if you have questions, please remember to write them down on paper. And tomorrow I can answer those questions. Okay. Now, there's one question here. Do you want to save it for tomorrow or handle it tonight? Oh my, so eager to practice. If you like it, I'll oblige. Now, following one question, respected teacher, please kindly explain for us to understand the wondrous nature of Buddha relics. What is the reality? Because in recent years, we see many Buddhists venerating relics, having to pay several $100s to receive or invite them. Therefore, we wonder if they are truly Buddha relics or not. If they are real, do they possess any miraculous power? Please kindly explain for us to understand. For those who haven't understood the question yet, but understand but don't know the word relics, before going deeper, I will explain the term relics. The word relics is a transliteration from the Sanskrit sarira or sari, and we transcribe it as xaly or xaloy. Understand, this is a transliteration, and the term relics is translated in meaning as sacred bones or remains. Relics translate to sacred remains, meaning the remaining bone fragments of saints, of cultivators, after they pass away and we cremate them. In Buddhism, cremation is called tra-tai. Instead of using the word fire cremation, Buddhism uses tra-tai. Lay people avoid it, calling them bones or ashes. But for saints, if after cremation there are special particles like colored stones, we call them relics, translated as sacred remains. So, where do these relics come from? Dear Assembly, relics are the result of the dedicated practice of those venerable ones. Not just pieces of bone taken out that happen to be red, purple, or green that we call relics. If we call them relics, we can provisionally call them bone relics, but they aren't truly jewel relics. because if they were jewels, they would be particles crystallized like beautiful gemstones. They come in 3 sizes. The smallest is like a sesame seed. Slightly larger is like a green mung bean size. Sesame seed size. Sometimes rice grain size. Relics usually come in 5 colors. Black represents hair. Red represents blood. Green represents sinews or veins. Yellow represents skin. White represents bone. And opaque white represents marrow. It's due to the dedicated practice and merit of these venerable ones that when cremated, these parts of the body crystallize into jewel-like particles that cannot be crushed. And if it's a real relic, placed in water, it doesn't sink. And if it's a real relic, if you place 5 beads at the 5 corners of a basin of water, these 5 beads will automatically move towards each other and form a cluster. If it's a real relic, but not everyone has them, and some venerables, when cremated, yield only a few dozen beads, not like the Buddha, because only the Buddha's entire body consists of relics. For us, it's just a part that becomes relics. So, are relics rare or common? If they are rare, are they few or many? Few. If few, how can there be enough to sell for several $100s? So, anyone who buys relics like that, maybe they can be called relics, but perhaps guava seeds. But they cannot possibly be real relics. I gives an example. If I truly had one relic of a saintly Buddha, I wouldn't dare say. Now, if I had a relic of a venerable monk, a bodhisattva, an arhat, a hero disciple, would I dare sell it? No, it's precious, a treasure. Millions of people might only obtain 1 or 2 beads. How could I possibly go and sell them? And where do these relics come from in bowlfuls? Going to every nail salon and offering them like this. Every salon wants to prosper, right? Salon, barber shop, doctor's office, auto repair shop. And whoever comes in says, "Oh, you have great affinity." Hearing this brings great affinity. So auspicious. The teacher just gave me this bead. It's not like the teacher gives it without including an envelope for donation. And whoever gets a relic then advertises to this person. Advertises to that person. We have mistaken relics. It's not really our fault, because we deeply respect relics. And we think that obtaining one relic makes us happy. But within that respect, we lack the wisdom eye to discern. So we have nurtured those who sell relics. We respect them, but we cannot continue to enable those venerable ones selling them to commit the fault of taking those beads and selling them like that. So it turns out, you see, eventually, relics are sold too. Then what's left? For example, now, if I am fortunate enough to receive one bead, and it's special, then I treasure it. But if someone says, "Oh wow, I got this relic for $500, then naturally, I don't see anything precious about it. If someone gives it to me, then it's precious. But if I buy it, what's so great about it? Here, I is not criticizing, not pointing fingers at anyone, but I just wants to state to the assembly, if it is truly a relic, it is immensely precious, but not those abundant relic beads that people take and sell for several $100s per bead. So please, don't accept those things. Okay. If you make offerings to that venerable teacher, just make the offering, but don't accept relics like that. Then that teacher continues, or that person continues to create those beads relics, bowl after bowl, selling them off to the next state. The next state. Ultimately, every household has relics. Then, when we have them, we don't know which are real, which are fake. So, we end up making people look at Buddhism as chaotic. It shouldn't be like that. The ancients said it this way: when a righteous person speaks deviant Dharma, the deviant Dharma becomes righteous Dharma. When a deviant person speaks righteous Dharma, the righteous Dharma becomes deviant Dharma. Do you understand that saying? If a truly righteous person encounters even deviant Dharma, they will transform it into righteous Dharma. A righteous person speaks deviant Dharma. The deviant Dharma becomes righteous. But conversely, if a deviant person speaks righteous Dharma, the righteous Dharma also becomes deviant Dharma. We cannot support such things. If we sincerely pay homage to an image of the Buddha, just like paying homage to relics. Dear Assembly, the Buddha has 5 kinds of symbols. Have you heard that teaching yet? The Buddha has 5 symbols. 1. The Bodhi tree. 2. The cassock robe. 3. The Dharma wheel. 4. The lotus flower. 5. The stupa or a Buddha statue. Thus, if in this life we cannot encounter the Buddha's relics, paying homage to the Bodhi tree is also paying homage to the Buddha. We haven't met the actual Buddha, but we pay homage to his image, because that is the symbol of the Buddha. Just like we stand under the flag of the United States, we salute it, that is saluting the spirit representing the entire nation. Even though it's just a piece of cloth. A Buddha statue is just plaster, just paint used to draw. But it symbolizes the mind of the holy, the virtuous, the wholesome. We take refuge in that. Bow to that. We turn our minds towards venerating the wholesome and virtuous to receive that wholesomeness and virtue. It's not about blind faith that the Buddha is sitting inside there. Therefore, if you cannot encounter relics, pay homage to the Bodhi tree. If any of you have the chance to visit Sri Lanka, you'll know that the people of Sri Lanka, meaning 90% of the disciples in Sri Lanka, follow Buddhism. 90% Buddhist. It's the state religion. Every road has a Buddha statue and a Bodhi tree at every corner. And every Buddhist who goes to the temple, sometimes the main hall is crowded. They go out into the courtyard, bow to the Bodhi tree, sit under the Bodhi tree chanting sutras. Buddhists going to the temple, besides incense and lamps, carry bottles of water. Do you know why? To water the Bodhi tree. And in India, in Sri Lanka, they build stupas. Build stupas why? To enshrine relics. Or maybe the stupa has nothing inside, but the stupa itself is a symbol of the Buddha. I explained this point to the assembly. In Sri Lanka, the stupa's base is square. The dome above is round, and on top is a tall, pointed spire. Do you know what that represents? The 3 essential implements of the Buddha. The square base represents the sitting mat of the Buddha. The round dome represents the alms bowl of the Buddha. And the pointed spire on top represents the walking staff of a monastic. Thus, the stupa contains the 3 Dharma implements of a monastic. Therefore, we Buddhists, if not careful, we might inadvertently support the propagation of things that are not Buddhist teachings. Yet people keep saying they are Buddhist. Dear Assembly, Buddhism does not advocate talking about relics. Please don't do that. Buddhism does not advocate dying to get relics. The core teaching of Buddhism is how to practice to transform the suffering, the afflictions within oneself right here in this life. And a person who reduces greed, reduces anger, reduces delusion is a person whose entire body is relics. No need to wait until death to get a lump. Don't misunderstand like that. Buddhism absolutely does not advocate practicing in order to die. Be cremated. Then collect bones looking for some lumps. That is not the core teaching of Buddhism. If they exist, it's merely the result of the merit of practice. That's all. It's not the ultimate goal of Buddhism. The ultimate goal of Buddhism is liberation. And liberation, first and foremost, is liberation of one's own mind. Liberation from circumstances. Complete liberation. If the mind still clings, is not liberated. Still suffering from afflictions, not liberated. Encountering anything and getting irritated means the circumstances are not liberated. If you haven't liberated yourself from circumstances, haven't liberated your own self, what's the point? Even if you are completely liberated and cremated, and have relics. Now, if you transform your body, you walk. In the past, your eyes looked at people sideways or glared, and your mouth used to speak harshly. Now you change all of that. Naturally, your person becomes dignified. That entire body is relics. Those relics know how to walk, know how to speak, know how to transform sentient beings, without needing to find those lumps. So, if you have them, it's good. But it's not the ultimate goal of Buddhism. Don't do that. We are Buddhists, pure Buddhists. Know the Dharma, know the practice, know the path, know how to listen to the Dharma. Don't let those things become things that trouble us. Cremated, then just wait to pick up relics. Do you know, there are venerable practitioners. Before they pass away, they instruct, after cremation, the entire body of disciples. No one is allowed to look for relics, because the venerables don't want us to be preoccupied with that matter. I came here these past few decades, lived wholeheartedly for the path, for life, period. The four great elements body is unreal anyway. But if anything remains, it's a trace to attest to the result of practice, to strengthen faith for everyone, not the ultimate goal of my practice. Dear Assembly, remember this, then we can be liberated from it. Someone brings it and says, "Oh, Dharma friend, you have great affinity. Listen, it's very precious." Asks for it, but the teacher doesn't give it. "Today I met you, Dharma friend, so I give it to you." Say, "Yes, thank you, but I yield it to someone else, because I'm afraid my home doesn't have enough space to venerate it with dignity. I would be at fault." Saying that is fine,